Hello friends, and welcome to day 3 of our rainbow dress sew along. Today we'll be creating the collar and sewing it to the front bodice. Not too many steps today. We probably did the longest days already. So you have, for the collar pieces, you should have 4. 2 main and 2 lining. My main is interfaced with SF101 and I managed to squeeze some black SF101 out of my scraps to interface the lining. So this is my main and this is my lining. It's easier to see in the videos. Also, I told you I wanted to show you how to add an extra something to your collar. So we're going to be adding some piping. This is store-bought piping that I got from Walmart, I think. So you're going to start by taking your piping and sewing it right sides together to the excuse me, to the longest curve of your collar. I also switched my presser foot to zipper foot. So what I like to do when I sew piping to the collar, I don't start here because it will create unnecessary bulk. I start a little off and veer it a little bit, and then I'll do the same thing on the other side. So I start about 1/4 of an inch in with at an angle and veer it in. This way when you turn it, it's not going to overlap on that bulky cord. So that, and then I guide my piping, which is done with bias tape, so it goes well in the curve, along the curve of the collar. Store-bought piping is made with bias tape, so it curves easily. If you make your own piping with cord, make sure that you cut your tape on the bias. Okay, so when I get to the top here, I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to, instead of sewing all the way here, I hope you can see here. So I'm not going to sew a straight stitch like this all the way. I'm going to veer it out like so. See, I'm leaving a little bit, about 3/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, eyeball it, and veer it out. This way you remove excess bulk in the seam allowance of when you sew your shoulder seams. And I'll cut it and show you what I mean. Okay. So this is the piping sewn to the collar. Remove it from here too. So you can see where it stops and where it ends and how it does that. And again, I've sewn the piping to the main collar, not the lining. Okay? So this is the part that's going to go in the seam allowance of the shoulder, and this will go in the seam allowance right now with the lining. So this is what it looks like. Okay. Now we're going to ease the lining into the collar along the long edge, and I do encourage you to use pins or clips for this step. The lining is slightly smaller and it is done on purpose. This way when you flip it and attach it to the top, you won't have the lining showing on the outside. So you just ease that in so the raw edges match. Okay, so this is what it looks like with the raw edges matched. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and sew with your zipper foot still on, because you're going to enclose the piping here. I might need to give it a little help over that bump there, where the piping starts, where the cord is. So now I'm sewing as close as I can get it to the piping, and this is only a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. It's not the usual 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay. Now you want to turn it. If you feel the need to snip a few or remove some excess from here to lay even flatter, you can. But if not, you can just flip it and look what gorgeousness. It is absolutely beautiful. I am a sucker for a piping, let me tell you. Piping in the bags, piping in the clothes. Look how gorgeous it looks with that edge. What a beautiful pop of color. Okay, so we're going to baste the inside of the collar, which is a 1-to-1 ratio, so it's not going to need any easing into. I'm switching to my regular foot, and I'm going with a longer length right now for basting, just to hold it in place. Optionally, if you want, keeping your zipper foot on the machine, you can top stitch along this line. So this is what it looks like. You need to definitely give it a good press, and now the lining won't flip. I'm thinking, if I want, of course you're going to repeat it with the other color. Ta-da, this one is pressed. So I'm wondering if I should do the top stitching or not. Probably I'm not going to. Pressing is enough. This is my other color. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a press, and look how it looks here, because we've put the color, the piping on here. We veered it a little bit. So see, now it's not going all the way in there. And same here, this will go in the seam allowance of the neck, and you don't have the bulk of the cord that will go in the seam allowance. So let me give it a good steam press, and then, okay, now both pieces are steamed pressed. Look how beautiful it is. Oh my god, I love piping. Okay, so now take your front bodice, and if you're not sure which one is the front, it's the one that on the arm it has only 1 notch. The back bodice has 2 notches. So take your front, and I'm going to place my collar pieces on the bodice, and I'm going to baste them in place. Don't skip the basting, because it will make your life a lot easier when you add the neckband, which is probably tomorrow. So I match the collar, the shoulder, right here. And pin it in place. And then I match the neckline. Other shoulder, and then baste, and that's the last step for today. So going to make sure that this overlaps a little bit here. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. Let's go ahead and baste it. make sure this doesn't come apart. So keep it with a lot of pins if you need to. It's very important to go slow here and everything stays in one spot. If you're not happy, you can remove the basting stitches and rebaste, especially in the center. That's where I find it to be the most difficult and the most important for it to stay basted together nicely. So this is finished. Today's steps are done. What you need to do right now is snap a photo of your beautiful color and place it in the day 3 photo comments of the Sew Along album. You'll find this in the Sew Along group on Facebook. And I'll see you back here tomorrow when we'll be sewing the shoulder seams and adding the neckband. Bye!